Welcome, welcome. So excited to have you here today. My name is Linda Sunshine West. I'm the founder and CEO at Action Takers Publishing, and I'm excited to have one of our two times authors, two times with us. She's multiple times author, but we're going to be talking today a little bit about quantum manifestation and the anatomy of abundance, two of the books that Sylvia Becker-Hill has been in. And Sylvia, first, before we get really started into the topics and stuff, I just want to share that I met you several years ago. I don't even remember where. I think it was at Hera Hub, I think. And Secret Knock. Oh my gosh. Yes. So I met you years and years ago, and it's just been this relationship that has, kind of like gone up and down, up and down. Like we see each other, sometimes we don't, and sometimes we do. And what I love about relationships and humans, like getting together with humans, is that the more we get together with them, the more we talk to them, the more we not only learn about them, but we can also learn about ourselves. And that's one of the things that you have done for me. Every time we have had a conversation, I have learned something new about myself, because you just like, you open up that portal, like that mindset portal that makes me dive in and say, oh, this is very curious. Let me learn about that. So sharing that with everybody, Sylvia is like, just when you speak about topics, you are so detailed and really get into the meat of it. And I think from my perspective, you're this person that is so introspective as well as outrospective. I don't know if that's a word. I just made it up. Outrospective, that you're looking at everything. And how do you do it all? Like, let's just start right there.
Well, I think it comes from my German cultural background and my upbringing. I was a single child with 4 adults, my beloved parents and my mother's parents. And my parents had me late in life, biologically, their age. My mom was nearly 40. So living as a young child with 4 much older adults in a German house with thick walls and bad weather and rain, I became very early a book nerd. My grandfather, who was a retired teacher, taught me how to read when I was like 4 or 5 years old. So I was a well-reversed reader before I even went into elementary school. And being so often, literally for hours on stretch alone, I just became utterly curious. And I was, the meme of mine, I was literally eating books for breakfast all my life. I once calculated around my 30th birthday. By my 30th birthday, I had already read over 10,000 books.
Oh my goodness.
I'm now 57. I stopped counting. But when Billy shelves, these classic white shelves, I had a library of 7 shelves of those filled in Germany, which when we moved over, I left mainly behind because just, the transport from Germany to the United States was so expensive because books are heavy. They are trees, right?
Right. They are trees, yeah.
And I'm now also again living in books. Yeah, we have book piles literally beside every chair in the house, beside my bed. My husband jokes that if he wants to give me a kiss, he has to climb over books. So I'm an insatiable, curious, book-loving and wanting to understand the world, and especially as humans. Obviously, there are topics I'm not interested in. I don't have an engineer in mind. Yeah, I don't know how airplanes work. I'm still, even though I flew nearly 30 times around the world, I still don't understand how these heavy, monstrous machines can fly, even though friends have explained that to me. But philosophy, the deep questions, what is the meaning of life? What is purpose? What do we need to be happy? How do you define success? Why does war exist? What is the human ego? These kind of questions, to understand our nature as humans, they fascinate me, and I still love to expand the answers and the scope of the questions, and I will do this till the last breath I take. And when it comes to the detailedness, I think that's a German cultural thing. I still am proud. I still believe that Germans make the best cars in the world, to say that. I know I'm here in California with so many Tesla fans, but I drive a BMW and my husband a Porsche, and there is something about the love for the quality of the details, which for me, it's in the thinking. Yeah, if you look into my house, I'm not super tidy or clean. So there, my love for details is not so strong. But in the thinking, to differentiate things, oh my gosh, for me, it's every time I distinguish something or I learn a new word, I make the effort to learn every day one new English word because English is not my mother language. It opens up a new world.
That's awesome. I want to talk about, because you talked about reading, like your voraciousness of reading started at a very, very young age. And I want to just talk about that because today's world, I'm finding that it seems to be not as many people are interested in reading as back in the day, especially back in the day when that's all they had. Like there was no electronics and stuff like that. And so I'm curious to hear your thought, since you've been reading for such a long time, have read so many books, like what's your perspective on the importance of reading?
So I want to first distinguish what for me is really real reading, because there's a growing number of electronic books, ebooks, and audiobooks. I have friends now who are super proud that they got all e-bikes and they are riding through the Californian countryside constantly listening to audiobooks, and they are very proud. So for me, because I have a background in applied neuroscience, I'm a brain geek. I love studying because my questions of what do we need to be happy? What defines success? How can we have control over ourselves? All the answers I found in applied neuroscience. So from an applied neuroscience perspective, there is research which can show you what and how many brain areas are activated when you read a physical book versus an electronic book or versus just audiobook. So, beloved viewer, I'm sorry if I spoil some of your beliefs. Nothing comes when it comes to the brain activation to have a holistic, meaning many areas of the brain activated, to engage with your subconscious mind, to evoke emotions, to help you when you want to learn from a book by reading a non-fiction book with a specific goal for your maybe university degree or for being an entrepreneur for new product ideas. If you want to retain the content of what you are reading, nothing is as powerful as a physical book because it's somatics. I mean, books, they have a different smell. They have a different feel, kinesthetically, smelling, visual. All our senses, our whole body is engaged when we hold and read and snuggle up with a physical book. And electronic books and audiobooks can't substitute that. So one
before you go on, I want to address that because there are, I don't know anything about studies or anything like that. I just know what I hear. And so what I have heard is that there are some people that are audio learners. There are some people who are kinesthetic learners. There are some people, so there's different senses that we tap into for our ability to learn. I myself am extremely kinesthetic. Like if I read a book, I'm going to remember anywhere from 75 to 80% of it. If I listen to it, I can listen to it 80 times and not learn one thing. So can you address that for those who are more of like an audio, maybe like audio is their main sense that they tap into?
So the pure audio learners who literally will remember more when they read it through audio versus reading it physically is statistically small, and they exist.
Yeah.
So if the beloved viewer, if you know you are a really strong audio learner, just make a test. You take two similar books and one you listen through audio and write down all key insights you can remember a week later, and do then the same for not the same book, because otherwise it's hard to compare the two processes, a similar book and read it physically and do the test. So I would not dare to claim that there are not people who can remember a lot from audiobooks. It's just that because the somatics, it's a multi-sensory input when you have a physical book. And of course, ideally, if you have the money, get the physical book and the audiobook and do both. For example, when I read physically, and for me, there are two things why I read books. Either it's pleasure, then I don't highlight, I don't have pens in my hand. I often lay in my hammock or bed and read just for pleasure and escapism. Either it is pleasure like poetry, beautiful novels where the language, I studied linguistics, so the beauty of language gives me pleasure, or it's just a really good novel. I love steamy Victorian era love novels. Yeah, like really sometimes trashy content. But for me, it's an escapism sometimes when I'm very stressed or I have a difficult time. To have a good book I can dive in and escape what's going on right now. It's just a gift for me. So, but the main reason the majority of my books I read for learning. So that's about memory and retention. And so for that, I always have my pen, a highlighter. And nowadays, since a few months, I wish I would have started that years ago. I'm now starting to create little memory cards with the main insights and then the page where a quote is I was interested in, and I start collecting them. And it's so-called Zettelkasten, which is an invention from German sociologist Niklas Luhmann. So, but that's for learning. And ideally for everyone viewing here our interview, our conversation, as more senses, as more the body is involved. And the beautiful thing is when you highlight or when you underline lines, you move your hand. You are literally actively, your own body is extending itself into the book. And then you have all the notes and the margins. And this is something I have as a request for you as a publisher and all publishers. I wish they would make the white margins around the main copy of books general much bigger, because I love to take notes literally into the book, into the text, and have a dialogue with the author and the text where it is. And for my many writings, the margins are always too small and it starts to look very messy. But that way, as more you use your whole body, as more you will retain and memorize. And going back to the global context, we are sadly, through a lot of different things, speed up of our culture, the whole busyness paradigm of work in the last 40, 50 years, where being busy and fast is a badge of honor, the internet, social media, our smartphones, the constant distraction of pings and notification and noise, the scrollable, oh my gosh, I just recently read that the impact of technology from having online a screen where you have a window and then you had to press 15 years ago or 18 years ago a button to go to the next page. And then they invented a new algorithm to be able to endlessly scroll, like on Facebook or Instagram. It shifted something in our brain and the way we look at information and how much we consume. My point is, there are in the moment a lot of things which sadly zap away our ability to focus and our ability to control our own attention. And we are where our attention is. And when our attention gets constantly scattered, but there, oh my gosh, bing, boom, bam, news, boom, email, another window browser, we are literally losing ourselves. And that leads to anxiety, that leads to stress, that leads to depression, leads to conflict. I mean, there are a lot of things, and I'm an unshakable optimist, and yet there are sadly in the moment a lot of things that worry me, collectively, globally, politically, economically, climate crisis, etc. I believe training oneself to read a book from start to finish, which is very rare nowadays. I don't know the numbers from the last 2 years, but I think 2021, only less than 30% of people who start a book finish it. Less than 30%.
I'm surprised it's that high.
Yeah, and not every book is worth reading from first to last page. And there's a difference if you choose consciously, okay, that book is not worth my time, or if you're just getting distracted. If you would love to read the book, but you start 10 books and your life doesn't allow you to finish them, these are warning signs. Seriously, these are warning signs. If you don't have control over your own desire to finish a book, how much control do you have in other areas of your life? So for
Yeah.
me, books are the answer to a lot of problems in our world. Training our own mind, training our intention, training our focus, but also gathering information and solutions and answers to the global challenges we face. So yeah, if I had a magic wand, I mean, I have one here, and I could wave it with a global impact, it would be that every human being reads minimum one book a week. That's my dare for every viewer, 52 books a year. And if everyone would do that, the world, I believe, would be a better place, including strengthening democracy, which in the moment is globally threatened. And it has to do with lack of education and a lack of thinking, because a democracy can only function with people who think for themselves. And if we are all more and more manipulated by social media and the certain people who have the money and the power to infiltrate social media, we have to protect ourselves from that. And books do that.
Let's go back to the 52 books a year. Well, you can just about get that many books at actiontakerspublishing.com, because we're on number 45, I think, now. So we're making our way through in this publishing world, getting all these stories out there, the messages out there. We have books that are solo authored, books. We also have a lot of collaboration books where people come together and share their messages. Let's talk about The Anatomy of Abundance. You want to show that book up there? Anatomy of Abundance. This is a great book with one of our authors, Patrina Wisdom. She brought that book to us. And Sylvia, why don't you share just a little bit about your chapter in that book, and then next share a little bit about quantum manifestation.
So Patrina is a local friend of mine who I just cherish and admire. And what makes this anthology stand out for me is that Patrina has developed a framework, the anatomy of abundance, and each chapter is placed inside that framework. So that means this book has a beautiful red thread and is not just a kind of cocktail of thrown together chapters, and it evolves. And in my chapter, I go deep into the neuroscience of success, and I use my passion for distinctions to dismantle some myth about success and how the brain works. And it's a fun chapter. It's a mix of a bit of storytelling, but also lots of wisdom. And in the moment, I'm trying here to find my own page. Where am I? So that I can show you a bit. It's such a beautiful book. Oh my gosh, yeah, here I see a few friends. Okay, here I am. So the key here in my chapter, how to turn your brain from success saboteur to abundance amplifier, is I talk about the power of the design of our brain, which is by nature, cosmos, universe, God, whatever you choose to believe in, is designed for our survival. And survival and happiness or success are not on the same bandwagon, you could say. So the brain sometimes, our subconscious mind, sabotages our attempts to be happy or successful because it believes our survival is in danger. And that has to do with the age of our brain, because the model we have is 25,000 years old, and the way our brain is wired to react to a big monster, a big saber-toothed tiger coming towards us. That reaction pattern we have in our brain, for example, hardwired, gets now triggered by a meme on Facebook or by an email that disagrees with us. And we spiral down subconsciously in behavior which sabotages our success. So in that chapter, I give some brain hacks and teach a self-coaching process called Face It, because that's ultimately, I think, the key to success is training our courage. And you have done that, Linda, so beautifully, where you had this year where you faced one fear a day, right? You trained yourself deliberately to face every day something which made you feel uncomfortable. And I like to say our scope or size of our success depends or is correlating with our willingness to feel uncomfortable. And living in a society, especially in the United States, where comfortability is such a big value,
Right.
everyone wants to be comfortable, it's counterintuitive. And there are sadly even a lot of teachers, life coaches, gurus, etc., who say that when you feel good, you are on the right way. And yes, of course, I don't say that you have to sacrifice yourself and you need to go where the pain is, no pain, no gain. I'm not saying that. Again, it's about nuances and fine distinctions. It is just that as long as we stay in our comfort zone, we repeat the success we had last year or yesterday or last week. If we want to grow and change, by definition, we have to step out of our comfort zone, and that will trigger in our brain all the warning bells. Don't do that, danger, saber-tooth tiger. And we have to train our courage to face whatever it is which is in our way. And I believe that fear, and there's for me a difference between anxiety triggered by stressors or triggered old PTSD, etc., or fear which you experience when you move towards an action, like people, your clients writing maybe their very first book ever, publishing their first chapter. Oh my God, that is for most people such a fear-inducing, huge step into visibility outside their comfort zone. But when you face it and move through it, you are freer, more powerful, and have then a baby, a book you are proud about. I mean, this is, I love this book. And that's important for selling it, gifting it, sharing it for years to come. Every author needs to be happy and proud about the book they are in. And with all your books, I'm always happy and proud, Linda. And I know many of your clients also from other books. So beloved viewer, if you're considering to move out of your comfort zone, move out of hiding and publish a chapter or a solo book, Linda would be a wonderful partner and her team as well.
Thank you. Now, before we go to the other book, Quantum Manifestation, you can get your copy, and there are also free gifts from the authors of Anatomy of Abundance. Go to go.patrinawisdom.com/abundance. Again, that's go.patrinawisdom.com/abundance. And I want to just kind of like to talk a little bit about what you just shared about the fear. You know, I did break through a fear every single day for a year. And so it taught me a lot about myself. First of all, that I had a lot of fears. That was one thing that I learned there. But the most important thing I learned was that about 99% of the time when I broke through a fear, the result was great. So it was either like I was proud of myself, I met somebody I wouldn't have met, a door was open that I didn't even know was closed. And if that's the result we get 99% of the time from breaking through fears, why are we depriving ourselves of that? So this is what drives me to constantly still, anytime fear pops up, when I recognize that it's a fear, I'm like, okay, that's fear. I have to go do this now because I'm scared. That's what drives me to do it, is because I'm scared. Yeah. So I love how you touched on that, because that is definitely one of my favorite topics to talk about.
I know.
Is breaking through fear. Yeah.
And this is one of the things I admire you for, because you are so committed. You make it literally a topic and a commitment to follow your fear. So for you, and this is something I invite every viewer here to test in their own life, to see fear not as a stop sign. Let me see, where do I have it? Here, I have this nice part. Yeah, fear is not a stop sign. Right. Fear is a go sign that you are moving towards your dreams. It's like the sign that you're moving in the right direction. Because if you have a big dream and are never feeling fear, then I think you are dreaming way too small, because then you are still dreaming inside your comfort zone. And it's not that I say everyone has to leave their comfort zone. It's your own choice. Yeah, if you are happy with your life and healthy and everything is running the way you want, stay, be that. Because if more people are happy in their comfort zone, we wouldn't have so many conflicts or even wars. Yeah, conflicts and wars happen when people are unhappy. I love the meme, and I don't remember who said it first, that our happiness is the biggest gift to the world. And I believe that's true, because happy leaders don't start wars. happy people are not mean to others. Very simple.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I totally agree with that as well. Well, let's go to the next book, Quantum Manifestation. Talk a
yes.
little bit about that one. And this one was an interesting one for me because as I shared my story in Quantum Manifestation, my first thought was that I don't have anything to share. And this is a very common, the reason I bring that up is this is a very common thought for a lot of people when it comes time to share their story. Like they think they don't have anything to share. So as I started reading the chapters from the authors that were coming in, I was like, oh, I do have something important to share here related to fear and quantum manifestation. And so I was able to relate the topic that I love to talk about most, into the topic of quantum manifestation. But your chapter was very enlightening and very just eye-opening. And I love how you always bring all these like you're just such a brilliant woman, and I really admire you and what you do and who you are, what you're all about. And you bring that, to the chapters, but you write it in a way that it makes sense for the person who doesn't speak the languaging that you might speak, that for me is like, okay, it's kind of out there, but you're able to bring it down to earth and to help, someone like me, understand it more. So first of all, why don't you share a little bit about your chapter?
Thank you so much. And I worked on my writing style because I am an academic. Yeah, I studied 9 years because in Germany it's more or less free. 9 years, 5 different topics: philosophy, linguistic, literature, and other things. And I have a second degree in administrative science, etc. And coming from German and English being not my mother language, my first years of writing in English, my husband was, because he's an English native, was always my first reader. And it was his brutal, honest feedback which made me a better writer, and to drop the academic style and become more casual and etc.
Awesome.
So the chapter for this book was from this year. I published in 9 different books a chapter over the last 12 months. And this was my most difficult one because for the first time, I shared a personal, heartbreaking private story, which I'm not sharing now here because I want you to get the book to read the chapter. Plus, I allowed myself to be more publicly critical with which is taught in public. And I'm always a bit hesitant because the role of being the devil's advocate, which I have been often in my life, is not an easy role. And I have been attacked and criticized for being that. But there's something in me since I was a child and stood up in school against teachers who I believed were acting unfair with their grading or treating my pupils, colleagues, my friends, not the right way. I'm always the girl who likes to point towards the emperor when everyone else is applauding and clapping and to say, hey, the emperor is naked. And if you don't know that fairy tale, please look it up from Christian Andersen, The Emperor is Naked. In my chapter, I share successes and failures in my life with the so-called law of attraction. And then I analyze from my background of applied neuroscience and 28 years of executive coaching, change management, and having researched success principles historically, literally over the past 2,500 years in religious text, philosophical text, and now the last 100 years business text, I analyze what parts of the law of attraction are really, really working and are science-based, and also if they are not being able to be proven by science, evidence-based to really work for the majority of people, and which parts of the law of attraction are made up and mainly for marketing purposes created words which simply sell better. And for example, one word, the word magnetism, which is easy to explain scientifically. A lot of people use the word magnetism when they teach or talk about the law of attraction wrongly, because they say that like a magnet, you attract what you radiate or exude as your energy and mood. Well, if we go to the science of magnets, and let me see if I have some here at my hand. I didn't prepare that. I'm just thinking now about it. Let's see if I have so many boxes always around my desk. Yes, perfect.
So, and by the way, yes, that is a brain behind her on her table behind her.
Yes, on the other side.
Yes.
So I'm now going here a bit into my teacher school mode. So when we take literally here, remember from school, the plus minus pole of magnets. So when we have two magnets, where do they attract? Do they attract plus plus, minus minus, black black, red red? So law of attraction says that what you radiate out, you magnetize to you, you attract to you. But the word is wrong, because if I'm here, this is Thor's black, the negative one, they push each other apart. Magnets attract always the opposite, to magnetize and hold. So the word magnetism, or to magnetize, is simply used wrongly. You could say, oh, not a big deal. But well, the teachings of the law of attraction are full of these kind of things. When we radiate a certain mood or energy or certain values, we resonate with like-minded people more. When I go to a party, of course, I will talk longer and develop relationships with those people who resonate with me, who follow the same viewpoints about the world, the values, etc. But that's a phenomenon of resonance, and it's from psychology, versus magnetism is physics, and we are not magnetizing the people who fit to us. So some people might say, oh, Sylvia, this is really word-breaking, nitty-gritty. How does that help? Well, for me, it's important that people who study the law of attraction and don't achieve the things they want, that they don't immediately think, oh, it's my fault. I must be stupid, or I must do something wrong, which a lot of people sadly do. There's even publicly sometimes victim shaming. Oh, he or she attracted what she is experiencing right now. No, you are not attracting, magnetizing. Yeah, I especially hate it when it comes to horrible victim situations. No woman attracts her rapist. Yeah, this is just cruel. But people talk like that. So for me, as a philosopher and linguist, nuances of words matter. Because if you really believe in the power of our beliefs and that our thoughts have an impact on reality, of course, words matter. And it makes a huge difference if I study resonance and how does resonance work, or if I study physics and learn how magnetism works. So my chapter is about all these different nuances of my research. I mean, literally the preparation and homework I did for this short chapter was more than for my other 9 chapters combined, because I wanted to make sure that I'm not, making the mistake that I'm here publicly now dismantling and looking into. So I'm very proud about this chapter, and I hope it will empower a lot of people in their relationships so that they take from the so-called law of attraction what works and what doesn't. And why do I say the so-called law of attraction? Well, read my chapter. In it, I will argue why there is no law of attraction. The word law is already part of the whole marketing wrapping of success principles. There is no law of attraction.
Wow. So if you really, breaking that down as to what Sylvia shared, there's really a great reason to pull her chapter out and read that, because it really is fascinating. I know when I was reading it, I was like, really? This is like, just hearing and reading that, some of the lies that we're told, the things that we're told that we believe because people who are experts in the field, are telling us. And so we believe that to be true. But as science is something that, keeps evolving. So I think the more they learn in the scientific world, the more they're able to, impart to us. But some people will stay behind. They won't come forward to the new science. If I'm correct in my assumption. Well, I do want to show you can get your copy of the book, Quantum Manifestation, Plus, we do have free gifts from the authors over there at actiontakerspublishing.com/quantum. Go head on over there, get your copy of the book, get those free gifts from the authors as well. Sylvia, it's been a pleasure having you, and we are out of time, but I would love for you to share with us, like, what is one big piece of advice you would like to give us as to doing what we can to make this planet a better place?
Well, in the moment, I think for all of us, the number one duty is to manage our own reactivity. I mean, every time we watch the news, there's another horror story, another expansion of war, another conflict, another hurricane, tornado, wildfires, flooding somewhere in the world. So when we live more and more in this agitated state of vigilancy, of anxiety, our brain doesn't work properly. We can't make really any longer decisions or choices from freedom, because we are starting more and more to run from our ego, which is a part of our brain which is designed to just protect us. So when we come from this anxious, protective kind of brain state, we will make bad decisions in all areas of our life. So learning to set healthy boundaries and protect ourselves while we watch the news, while we still engage. I'm not saying retreat from the world and live in your own little cage and never watch the news. It's about learning through simple brain hacks, simple physical soothing exercise, just gently touching your naked skin on your arms or your cheeks. The tangibility of your somatic senses can calm your nervous system and calm your brain down. So the number one advice is stay calm and focus on love. Otherwise, the world will turn you nuts.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. And if you have a tendency to get angry with people that cut you off when driving, you can practice that technique while you're driving in your car, which is a great place to do. I brought that up because that was something that used to drive me nuts with drivers, but I have learned to like let it flow off. Like what do they say? Let it flow off the duck's back. I think that's the saying.
I have a fear of heights, and here in California there are so many curved and tilted highway entrances on these very high pillars. So what I do is I use tapping. I have my one hand on the steering wheel, and with the other I tap, I'm safe. I'm safe. My car is not flying off the ramp. Yeah, I'm safe. So there are little things we can literally do in every moment of our life to help our brain stay calm, centered, so that we can come from our best self when we make decisions in life.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sylvia, for everything that you do to, just to spread the word and to help people to step outside of that box and start thinking differently. It's like creating that curiosity within us to help us to do some more exploring. So thank you so much. Appreciate everything you do.
Pleasure. Thank you, dear.
Never block your blessings, because you're never going to know where it comes from. And just like me putting this book, of course, I had aspirations and dreams of doing it, and went to a few people, and they dragged and couldn't really make it happen. I played in George Lopez's golf tournament. I play in it every year. In the gifting suite, it was a publishing company, a white lady in there selling her books, and she usually does books for inspiration. Her name is Linda. Her publishing company is called Action Takers, and she usually does uplifting and inspirational books for women. But she had some cold titles that I seen that caught my eye, and me and her was chopping it up. I said, you know what, I've been wanting to do my book. And she said, let's do it. And that's just how it happened.
Damn, but it's a hustle. You're hustling,
and
yes.
We started talking, and she found me a ghostwriter, got the ghostwriter. We started brainstorming and networking and recording different stuff. It took about 8 months. And then it just blossomed. Now that everybody's seeing the movement and what I'm doing with my book, I'm helping 10 other people put their books up because they never had action on a publishing company, didn't know where to go, got crazy stories in their head. A couple people got the stories already written, done.
Damn.
But just didn't have a place. My boy Miguel Nunez, the actor.
Yeah, I know who he is.
Full story done, packaged, everything. Didn't have a publishing company. So I'm going to help him. We're going to run it through Action Takers.
That's what you do, Percy. You just help out everybody. You really do.
Yeah.
You have a big heart. You can be a little intimidating at times. I'm just
lot of
gonna let
times.
y'all know,
No, a
but
lot
I
of
love
times.
Percy. He got a big heart.
That comes from my grandmother.